My family treated me like free childcare for years, but when they asked me to watch kids at my parents' wedding instead of enjoying it, I exposed them all in front of 200 guests. And now my entire family is destroyed. I'm 19 years old, studying graphic design in college, and I need to tell this story because my entire family literally just exploded, and I don't know if I did the right thing or if I'm the worst daughter in the world, but honestly, I don't even care anymore. What happened, like 3 weeks ago at my parents' wedding, basically confirmed everything I'd always felt but never dared to say out loud, that to them, I simply don't exist in the same way my siblings do. And when I say I don't exist, it's not a dramatic teenage exaggeration. It's literal. But anyway, let me start from the beginning, because otherwise this isn't going to make sense. My parents, Linda and Robert, have been together since before I was born, like 27 years or something like that, and they'd never gotten married because, I don't know, I guess they never saw it as necessary. I have two older siblings, Sophia, who's 26, and Marcus, who's 23, and always, for as long as I can remember, they've been the obvious favorites. Sophia is the perfect daughter, you know, graduated with honors, has an amazing job in marketing, she's married to a guy who makes tons of money, and has two little kids that my parents adore. Marcus is the golden child, played soccer in high school, studied engineering, has a girlfriend named Jessica who practically lives at our house and who my parents treat like she's part of the family. And then there's me, Maya, the surprise daughter who arrived when my mom was 38 and who basically interrupted their plans of having a life without diapers or teenage drama. It's not like my parents are bad to me in an obvious way. You know what I mean? They don't hit me or yell at me or any of those things people consider abuse. It's more subtle than that. It's forgetting my middle school graduation, because that same day, Sophia had a presentation at work. It's buying Marcus a used car when he turned 18, but telling me I have to save for mine because they don't have the same money as before. Lie, they make more now than they did 5 years ago. It's taking the whole family out to dinner every time Marcus gets good grades, but barely noticing when I won a statewide design competition. It's those little things that pile up until one day you realize you're basically invisible in your own family. So, like 6 months ago, in April, I think, my parents announced they were finally getting married. They made this whole family dinner to tell us, and I thought, okay, this is going to be nice. We're all going to be together celebrating something important. My mom was super excited talking about dresses and flowers and all that wedding shit, and I genuinely felt happy for them because, honestly, they love each other and deserve to celebrate that. What I didn't expect was what came next. Turns out my mom had everything planned for months, literally had notebooks full of ideas and had been looking at venues for the wedding without telling us anything. And when she started talking about the ceremony, she said Sophia was going to be her maid of honor and Marcus was going to be my dad's best man. I sat there waiting for her to say something about me, thinking maybe she'd ask me to be one of the bridesmaids or a reader or something, but she said nothing. Absolutely nothing. She just kept talking about the decoration, colors, and the menu, and I don't know what else. And I just sat there feeling like I'd been kicked in the stomach but unable to say anything. Because how do you tell your parents it hurts not to be in their wedding without sounding like a selfish brat? The following weeks were basically a continuation of that. My mom would organize outings to look at dresses and only invite Sophia. They'd have family meetings to talk about wedding plans, and I was there, but it was like I was invisible. Nobody asked my opinion about anything. Once my mom even asked me to stay and babysit Sophia's kids while the whole family went to taste food for the reception. She told me, Maya, I need you to do this for me. It's super important that we're all there to decide on the menu. And I said, but I want to go too. And she looked at me like I'd asked for something completely ridiculous and said, oh, Maya, don't be dramatic. Someone has to stay with the kids and you're the only one who doesn't have anything important to do. That was like in June, I think. And it was the first time I really got angry. I told her it wasn't fair, that I was also part of the family and that I wanted to be included in the wedding decisions. And she literally told me I was being immature and that not everything was about me. My dad was there and didn't say anything, just shrugged like saying, well, your mom's right. And they all left, and left me there with two kids aged 3 and 5 screaming and running all over the house. I sat on the kitchen floor after the kids fell asleep and cried like I hadn't cried in years. Because in that moment I realized that to them I was more useful as a free babysitter than as a daughter. The wedding was planned for October, at a super elegant resort in Aspen. My mom has always been obsessed with appearances, and with everything looking perfect for Instagram. And as the date got closer, things got worse. Like, they organized a combined bachelorette party in August and didn't even invite me. I found out from the photos Sophia posted on Instagram, where all my aunts and uncles, my cousins, my grandparents, literally the whole family except me were there. When I asked my mom why she hadn't told me anything, she said she assumed I wouldn't want to go because it was at a bar. And I don't drink. I'm 19. Obviously, I don't drink legally. But Marcus is 23, and he was there, and there were other cousins younger than me who also went. So that excuse was pure bullshit. September was a disaster. My mom was super stressed with the final wedding details and basically used me as her unpaid personal assistant. Maya, I need you to pick this up. Maya, go get that. Maya, call the florist because I don't have time. But when it came to anything important or fun related to the wedding, I didn't exist. My mom's bridal shower was at a fancy spa with Sophia, her friends, my aunts, and obviously I wasn't invited. The final dress fitting was just for Sophia and my mom. Every time I asked about something, my mom gave me some generic excuse or just ignored me. 2 weeks before the wedding, my dad asked me casually if I already had my plane ticket to Aspen. I was like, what ticket? Nobody had told me anything about tickets. Turns out they had bought tickets for the whole family months ago, all in first class because my mom insisted they had to arrive rested and comfortable for the wedding, but they completely forgot to buy mine. I mean, they literally forgot I existed when they planned transportation for their own wedding. My dad got all nervous and said he'd see what he could do, and 2 days later he told me he'd gotten a last-minute ticket, but it was in economy class, and it left like 5 hours before their flight. So I'd have to go to the airport alone and wait for them at the hotel. I was already so tired of all this that I didn't even fight. I just said, okay, whatever, and started packing my suitcase. But then, like a week before the wedding, what finally made me explode happened. I was in my room studying when my mom came in and sat on my bed with that face she makes when she's going to ask me for something. She told me she needed to talk to me about a super important favor. And I was like, now what? And she explained to me, with the most serious face in the world, that Sophia was going to bring her 2 kids to the wedding, but obviously she was going to be busy with her maid of honor duties, and Marcus and Jessica were going to want to enjoy the party, and my parents were going to be, the bride and groom, so they needed someone to stay with the kids during the ceremony and reception. I just stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. I said, wait, are you asking me to be a babysitter at your wedding? And she told me, don't see it that way, Maya. It's just that we really need your help with this. The kids adore you, and I trust you more than anyone to take care of them. And I said, but I also want to enjoy the wedding. It's your wedding. I'm your daughter. Don't you want me to be there watching you get married? And she literally told me, oh, Maya, you're going to be there. Just taking care of the kids. It's not that different. Besides, someone has to do it, and you're the most logical option. That's when something inside me just broke. I asked her directly, why am I not in the wedding party? Why is Sophia your maid of honor and Marcus is best man, but I'm nothing? Why does Jessica, who isn't even family, have a more important role in your wedding than me? And my mom got super defensive and told me Sophia was my older sister, and obviously she had to be the maid of honor, and Marcus was the only son, so it made sense for him to be my dad's best man. And Jessica was included because she was practically part of the family. And I said, and what am I? Aren't I part of the family too? And she got angry and told me I was being ridiculous and dramatic like always, that not everything was about me, that her wedding was about her and my dad, not about me. I told her I wasn't going to be a babysitter at her wedding, that if they didn't want me there as a daughter, then I wasn't going to go. And she stood up and told me I was being immature and selfish, that family makes sacrifices, that Sophia left many things to help with the wedding, and I should contribute too. And I yelled at her, Sophia is your maid of honor. She has a special dress. She's in all the photos. Everyone sees her as important. It's not the same as asking me to be a babysitter. And my mom looked at me with so much contempt and said, you know what, Maya? If you don't want to help your family, then don't come. Obviously, you don't care about this important day for us. And she left my room and slammed the door so hard I thought it was going to break. That night, my dad came to talk to me. And for a second, I thought maybe he would understand. Maybe he would see how unfair all this was. I explained everything to him, told him how excluded I'd felt for months, how they never asked my opinion about anything, how they used me as a babysitter but didn't include me in anything important, how they forgot to buy me a plane ticket, how they were basically treating me like an unpaid employee instead of their daughter. And he listened to me and then told me he understood I was upset, but I had to understand my mom was very stressed with the wedding, that it wasn't personal, that after the wedding things would go back to normal. I told him that was exactly the attitude I was sick of, that they always minimized what I felt, that they always asked me to understand and be flexible, but never gave me the same consideration. He just sighed and told me to think things through, that they would miss me at the wedding if I didn't go, but that in the end, it was my decision. The following days were horrible. My mom completely stopped talking to me, like she'd walk past me in the house as if I were invisible. Sophia called me to tell me I was being selfish, and how could I do this to mom at such an important moment, that taking care of her kids for a few hours wasn't that big a deal. Marcus didn't even bother talking to me directly, just sent me a message saying he hoped I'd reconsider because the family needed everyone to be united. Nobody, absolutely nobody, seemed to understand or care how I felt. The day the family left for Aspen, like 5 days before the wedding to enjoy the resort and make final preparations, I stayed home. They didn't even say goodbye to me. My mom literally walked out of the house with her suitcases without saying goodbye, without looking at me. Nothing. My dad gave me a quick hug and told me I could still change my mind and catch up with them, that he'd already bought the ticket anyway. I told them no, I wasn't going, and they left. The house went silent, and I sat on the couch and didn't know whether to laugh or cry, because I couldn't believe this was really happening. During the next few days, I watched all my family's Instagram stories having fun in Aspen, Sophia posting photos of the mountains with the kids, Marcus and Jessica at the resort pool, my parents dining at fancy restaurants. And then, on the wedding day, my mom posted a photo of the whole family ready for the ceremony with the caption, "So blessed to have my whole family here on this special day." My whole family, as if I didn't exist. As if having Sophia, Marcus, Jessica, the kids, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, was enough, and I simply wasn't missed. That hurt more than everything else, I think. Seeing that they could be there, happy, celebrating, without even thinking about me, without even mentioning I wasn't there, as if I had never been part of the family to begin with. And what made everything worse was that messages started arriving from family and friends asking me why I wasn't in the photos, why I hadn't gone to the wedding, what had happened. And then my mom started telling people I was sick, that I'd caught a terrible infection and the doctor had forbidden me to travel. She was literally making up a complete story that I was devastated about, missing the wedding, but my health hadn't allowed me to go. When I saw the messages my grandparents sent me saying they hoped I'd recover soon, that they were so sorry, I was so sick, I couldn't go, something inside me just exploded. I wasn't going to let them continue with that lie. I took a selfie in my room, clearly not sick, smiling in my normal clothes, and posted it to Instagram with the caption, "Not sick, just forgotten. Hope the wedding is beautiful." And I left it there, public, for everyone to see. The response was immediate and chaotic. My phone literally wouldn't stop vibrating with messages. My grandparents confused, asking what was going on. My aunts and uncles sending me private messages asking if I was okay. My parents' friends who had seen my post and my mom's and realized something didn't add up. And then my cousin Nina, who's 21 and has always been like the older sister who actually pays attention to me, sent me a message saying this was bullshit, and if I wanted, she could do something about it. Nina was at the wedding because my Uncle David, her dad, is my mom's older brother, and that whole side of the family was there, obviously. I told her everything that had happened in recent months, all the times they'd excluded me, how they wanted me as a babysitter, everything. And she told me it was time someone told my parents some truths. She asked if I gave her permission to show some family members my Instagram post in person, at the reception. And I told her yes. That, honestly, I didn't care anymore. I wanted people to know the truth. What Nina did was brilliant. Honestly. Turns out my mom had prepared a photo slideshow to show at the reception. You know, those cheesy presentations with photos of them young and their love story and all that shit. Nina had access to the computer controlling the projector because she was helping with some technical stuff. She studies audiovisual communication, and she modified the last slide. Instead of ending with a cute photo and a sappy message, the last slide said, "Some family members couldn't be here today." Or were they forgotten? and photos of me with them from when I was a kid appeared. According to what Nina told me later, when that slide appeared on the giant screen at the reception, there was a horrible, awkward silence. People started murmuring, and several took out their phones. Because right at that moment, Nina had also shared my Instagram post in the big family chat we had. My grandparents apparently got furious. My aunts and uncles started asking questions, and my parents tried to explain but couldn't. Because, how do you explain? You forgot to include your 9-year-old daughter in your wedding, and then lied, saying she was sick? My Uncle David, Nina's dad, who's always been pretty direct and doesn't keep quiet about anything, apparently confronted my parents directly there at the reception. He asked them if it was true they'd excluded me on purpose, if it was true they only wanted me there as a babysitter, if it was true they'd forgotten to buy me a plane ticket. Sophia tried to defend them, saying I was exaggerating and being dramatic, but then several other family members who had noticed my absence at all the events leading up to the wedding started talking and saying yes. They'd thought it was weird. I was never in the photos or at planning meetings. The reception basically became a disaster. My mom ended up crying and locking herself in the bathroom. My dad tried to calm everyone down, saying it was a misunderstanding, that I had decided not to go on my own. But Nina kept showing people the messages I'd sent her, explaining everything. And the more people saw the evidence, the clearer it was that my parents were lying. Several guests even left early because apparently the atmosphere got super uncomfortable and tense. My parents cut their honeymoon short after 2 days and came back home. When they arrived, I was there, because honestly, I had nowhere else to go. And my mom came in furious, yelling how dare I ruin her wedding, that I'd been the worst daughter in the world, that I'd humiliated the whole family. I yelled back that they had done this themselves, that I hadn't done anything but tell the truth, that if they felt embarrassed, it was because they knew what they'd done was wrong. My dad tried to calm the situation, but basically just repeated the same old thing, that I was exaggerating, that I needed to understand how stressful everything had been for my mom, that I needed to apologize. I told them I wasn't going to apologize for anything, that they were the ones who owed me an apology for years of ignoring and excluding me. Sophia apparently sent me like 20 messages saying I was a horrible bitch for ruining our parents' wedding, that she would never forgive me, that she'd been so embarrassed having to explain to people why her younger sister had posted that. Marcus stopped talking to me completely. Jessica, who isn't even blood family, sent me a super long message explaining why what I did was wrong and how I should have handled things differently. But here's the thing. There were people who supported me. My Uncle David came to the house like 2 days after my parents got back and had a serious conversation with them. Nina told me he told them they'd been treating me like shit for years and it was time they accepted their responsibility in this. He told them if they couldn't see what they'd done to their own daughter, then there was something seriously wrong with them. My mom tried to defend herself, saying she'd always treated all her children equally, and my uncle literally told her that was a lie, that everyone in the family had noticed the favoritism towards Sophia and Marcus. But nobody had said anything because it wasn't their place to interfere in how they raised their kids, but this had gone too far. My uncle took me out of that house that same day. He told me to go stay with him and his wife Rachel for a while until things calmed down. My parents didn't even try to stop me. My mom just looked at me with resentment and told me if I left not to expect things to be the same when I decided to come back. I told her that was precisely the problem, that things had never been equal, that Sophia and Marcus had always been more important than me, and I wasn't going to keep pretending that didn't hurt anymore. I stayed with my Uncle David and Aunt Rachel for like 2 weeks. They were amazing, honestly. They let me talk, cry, vent, without judging me. My Aunt Rachel told me something that still resonates with me. She told me parents are human and make mistakes, but when those mistakes consistently hurt their children and they can't even acknowledge it, then there's a deeper problem. They helped me look for a small apartment near my university, helped me financially with the deposit, and basically gave me the support my own parents never gave me. My parents tried several times to contact me after I moved out. At first, it was pure anger, messages telling me I needed to grow up and stop being so sensitive. Then they tried guilt, saying it hurt them that their own daughter hated them, that they didn't understand what they'd done so wrong to deserve this. Then came the phase of trying to buy me, offering me money, a car better than Marcus's, vacations, whatever, to get me to come back and pretend nothing had happened. I told them I didn't want anything from them except for them to acknowledge what they'd done and genuinely apologize, but apparently that's too much to ask. I've been going to therapy since I moved out, like 2 months ago now, And my therapist has helped me understand that what I experienced for years was emotional neglect, that the constant favoritism toward my siblings was a form of abuse, and that I have every right to protect my mental peace by distancing myself from that situation. I still have difficult days where I wonder if I overreacted, if I should have handled things differently, if I'm a bad person for exposing my parents like that. But then I remember all the times I felt invisible, all the times I cried because I felt I wasn't enough for them, all the times they used me without valuing me. And I know I did the right thing. Like a week ago, my mom sent me a long message saying she was ready to start over if I was too. But I needed to understand she had also suffered through all this, that her wedding had been ruined and that memory was tarnished forever. She didn't apologize for anything specific, didn't acknowledge anything she did wrong, just basically wanted me to say sorry and go back to how things were before. I replied that I couldn't start over without an honest conversation about years of treating me as secondary in my own family, and she hasn't written back since then. I'm trying to focus on building my own life now. My grades are better than ever because I can finally concentrate without all the family drama. I got a part-time job at a design agency that I love. I'm going out with friends and meeting new people who value me for who I am. My Uncle David and Aunt Rachel invite me to dinner every week, and honestly, I feel more love and support from them than I felt from my parents in years. Nina and I have gotten much closer too. She says she always knew they treated me differently, but didn't know it had been so bad until I told her everything. The other night, I was looking at old photos on my phone and found one of the whole family from like 5 years ago. We were all together, smiling, and I looked happy in the photo. But I remembered that day and remembered we had gone to celebrate something of Sophia's. I don't remember what exactly. And nobody had asked me how I was or what I'd done that day. And I realized I've been living in that dynamic my whole life. I just never had the courage or clarity to confront it until now. Sometimes I feel guilty for having done it so publicly, for having exposed everything at their wedding. But other times, I think it was necessary because nothing less dramatic would have made anyone take me seriously. I don't know what's going to happen with my relationship with my parents long term. Part of me wants to believe that someday they'll be able to see what they did and really change. But another part of me has already resigned itself to the fact that maybe that's never going to happen. And I'm learning to be okay with that. To understand I can love my family but also need to protect myself from them. My therapist says, setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. And choosing my mental health over keeping family peace is valid. I still struggle to believe that some days, but I'm working on it. What I do know is I'm never again going to let anyone make me feel invisible. Never again am I going to accept crumbs of affection while others receive banquets. And if that makes me the problematic daughter or the black sheep or whatever my family wants to call me now, then so be it. At least now I'm living my life on my own terms, not constantly trying to earn a place at a table where there was never a chair for me.